ahead and ban out Cassin. Hecarim's taken away. No surprises there. Very contested pick between Zig and DJJ.
Yeah, the Hecarim is probably going to be banned on red side every single game. If it's not banned, I expect the Gnar to be picked up fairly early on just to dissuade the enemy team from taking it.
Yeah, the Nautilus, Sejuani, no-brainers there as well. They're just targeting out who they think are going to be the key pickups for each of those teams. The Urgot is also taken away, but now UBC has a chance to ban the last thing. What do we expect here?
It depends. It could be a Gragas ban last. They could end up banning LeBlanc. There it is. The LeBlanc comes through.
Yeah.
Because both mid laners are LeBlanc players, and they were banned in both sets against both teams. They pick up the Rek'Sai. Gragas is still on the table here.
Quickly.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is something else. And, you know, we saw a little bit of variety in the Yukon set yesterday. So for Oberon, he's going to go back to that Rek'Sai. I would definitely think the Gragas would be the next tier to fall through, but they don't have to pick it now.
Yeah, here's the thing with Proof of Payment, though. When I was looking at his match histories, he's much more confident on Nidalee and Rek'Sai. And Texas A&M was actually first picking the Gragas away from him. But you're going to see it right here where he's like, all right, I have to pick the Gragas now because my favorite champion was taken away. When I asked him about his favorite champions, right now, it's pretty much those two, Rek'Sai and Nidalee. Doesn't get it.
DJJ is going to be go ahead and taking the Gnar as well. Got me
Big lane bully for himself.
Oh, yeah.
So DJJ, now he gets to dictate the pace of the lane. Gnar doesn't have a whole lot of counter matchups. Some people consider Aurelia to be sort of a counter matchup.
It's all timing based. You got to work with the Gnar bar.
Exactly. You have to be able to work around the Gnar bar. They're going to go with the straight up, just sustained matchup here with Maokai. A little more gank pressure there, and with the Rek'Sai, there's definitely kill potential onto DJJ.
Yeah, and here for UBC, you know, it's talked about on the desk before that Bob Shin really likes that Zed play. He hasn't shown too much outside of that in LeBlanc. A few different things yesterday, obviously, with the Katarina Cassin pickup. And he flashes it right now. That was a real crowd pleaser. A pentakill and almost another.
Yeah, honestly, you're probably not going to pick Katarina this early on when you have last pick available. You already picked your top lane solo laner. You haven't seen their mid laner, and you have the option of doing that. So that's just a hover for right now.
It's also very difficult against this comp that they're building because, I mean, between the Maokai and the Rek'Sai, you're not going to be able to get those resets quite so easily.
Yeah, you're not going to get the duration, full duration on your ultimate off. I expect them to take their bottom lane here. We're going to see something different from Remy this game, and they're going with some disengage. This has a lot of disengage in it. Your engage is pretty much Gnar and Gragas barrel.
Here we go, though, for RMU. Very quick pickup of their lane. We're going to see a Jugger Jinx.
It's protect the Jinx composition here.
The Lulu.
Leo gonna pick up the Lulu for himself in the mid lane. See what Bob Chin picks up against him. But tails on this Jinx. This takes me back when he was in Challenger, back when he was trying to qualify for the LCS. This guy was a star player, and he would carry his team on things like Vayne, another carry-type champion, Jinx in the meta at the moment. So he has something that he's very comfortable on, and when they dedicate this many resources to Tails, you expect him to dominate the lane. And when you look over at UBC, you think the three former Challenger players are their top, their mid, and their jungler. So their AD carry and support are not former Challenger Series players. They didn't play on a team together before. In fact, Remy pairing up with Heatwaves is a more newer thing in comparison to the rest of the team. And it's also the lane that Proof ganks least often. So if you get something that scales into the late game, you pull Proof into that lane for pressure, and that's the advantage they're looking for here.
Oh, yes, indeed. Now for UBC, we see Bob Chin's go ahead and locks in the Orianna. That does combo up nicely if they can execute it with the Gragas, with the Gnar. But on the other hand, you know, this is a bit built for lane dominance right now, except for in the mid lane, it's going to be a little bit more back and forth poking and farming for quite a while. Everything else, though, it could get very explosive.
Both mid laners are going to be comfortable in this situation, though. Orianna, Lulu, they both want to scale up. They both want to be able to have those item breakpoints where they can clear minion waves instantaneously. They covered their wave clear here, though, something that UBC didn't do yesterday. They now have a wave clear champion in the middle. They fixed that problem for themselves, and as the analyst desk was saying, they had to coming into a series against RMU because they're going to get exploited and turrets are going to drop if they don't have that. Now, that gives them another set of engage. It actually increases the effectiveness of the Gnar engage from DJJ. So when he calls a shot to go in, it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So I'm really curious to see how they match up in the lane specifically. The bottom lane, I think, is probably where we could see the most potential explosive fighting, just because, you know, Lucian used to be known as that big lane bully. That's obviously changed a little bit, but he's still a very safe choice. Whereas the Jinx, that is a lot more risky, but it's a bold statement by RMU. Tails is saying, yes, I can beat you down, I can scale up, and we can take this game #1. As we get ready, loading up onto the Rift here. Let's see how it goes. We are live. into game number 1, UBC RMU. As the crowd goes up, we are into the first game of the NACC Finals here in Santa Monica.
For bragging rights, for everything. Best college NA at league is on the line right now.
$30,000 in scholarships each.
Yep, that's true. Just making it this far, you've guaranteed yourself at least $15,000 in scholarships for both teams. Winner basically doubles their money.
Oh yeah, that is definitely not a bad addition to that prize. That sweet, sweet trophy hanging on front of the stage. Got to be in the forefront of their minds. Well, maybe the back, because this game's got to be on the front right now. See DJJ wandering down, tosses the boomerang in Zig's general direction. But we do see the makings of a lane swap with Tails up in the top side. They're trying to fake this one out with Zig being there.
Exactly. So DJJ is trying to keep tabs on Zig, but Jinx Tails is already up in that top lane. So even if they got a deport, they'd have no idea. And it looks like Zig is going to start there. But Zig also hasn't set up for taking the Raptors just yet. He's going to go do that right now.
Wow, that is a little interesting.
Sometimes you rub a belly for good luck.
You know, I think that's the strategy here. So UBC trusting in the superstition to start this game off. A number of wards littering around the river.
They called it.
Ooh,
they called the lane swap.
They're going to go up for it. Yeah, we got a 2v2 in the top, it looks like, Zyrene.
But you really want this 2v2 as UBC.
Oh, yeah.
Because you want DJJ to have a lane against this Maokai that he can bully around. And this lane between Jan and Lucian, that's 2 early game bullies. And against a Morgana, she offers no sustain to Jinx. Every little bit of damage that Tails takes, there is a range disparity there, but he's not able to heal that up. Mini Bestia is not going to help him with that. And Mini Bestia is on a pick-oriented roaming champion.
Actually going to run.
You're going to see right here the lane swap. They're actually going to know this at this point now.
The binding goes wide too, and not going to be able to land on Remy, and his shield's just preventing all the damage. Now Tails,
both of them took a lot of damage.
They're having a rough start to begin with this one. That's not how you want to have that lane swap executed. Heat waves can start to push Tails back now quite a bit.
Immediate trades, immediate rush to the level 2 here to try and compensate for it from RMU. No potions pop. They're just going to try to sustain and clear as fast as possible. But when Lucian walks up to you...
Oh, it's a binding though. They blew through the shield. Yeah, you need to be able to do that. So it's going to be down on Mini Bestia being able to land that and zone them back just so Tails can get the safe farm. Right now, it's fairly even across the board. So we've just got a standard lane swap doubled on both sides. Should be pretty safe in the mid and, of course, in the bottom for a while. But I really want to keep my eye on that top side and see what the junglers do for this one. Right now, they're hanging out on the bottom side, though.
Yeah, and both are in a position to go from their bottom side buffs to their top side buffs to gank that top lane. There is more gank assistance on the Morgana, and Mini Bestia, he's definitely hitting a lot of these bindings, trying to get pressure in his lane. But the level 2 came out earlier for UBC, so they get a bit of pressure, and they get some of those early potions.
Yeah, not to mention they were able to freeze it in the middle for just a second. It's very hard for Tails to farm this one away. You can see the disparity in farm already, and they just hit the level 2, so they are going to be able to trade a little bit better here, but still, it's a rough start for the RMU bot lane in the top.
Yeah, Mini Bestia, he started with the Dark Binding as opposed to the Tormented Soil, so he wasn't able to push the lane and get them that level 2 faster. So they seeded that lane after they showed the Janna and he had taken that ability.
You can see him get pushed in pretty hard here. So Proof hanging around on the top side, or rather in the river, going ahead and taking that crab. Oberon's there as well, and he might actually run right in to the Gragas. He can't trade this one. He's lost some health. Praise Seeker not going to connect, and now...
he went
for it. Yeah, that's not going to be good for Oberon, who does take the trip out. Proof's going to be clearing away the tunnel right immediately after, and RMU's in a little bit of trouble in this early game.
He gets dominance over this jungle. He can steal some creeps. He can put Oberon a little bit behind. They warded up to protect Tails and Mini Bestia in the top lane and keep them safe. But you're going to see Proof take this wolf camp, take the spirit for himself if he smites it. But the fact that Oberon just unburrowed, it was a little questionable. But I think he just wanted to see who it was. But he knew it was Gragas all along.
It's kind of hard to hide someone as big as Gragas.
Yeah.
Even though the Bush did a good job of it. Yeah, Proof is going to be able to do a bit of the counter jungling here, so Oberon's going to have to get a little bit creative to keep up. So far, there's not as much farm disparity, but there you go. They're going to reverse the lane swap. Tails does not want to take on Heat Waves and Remy, but they're both backing too, and you can also see DJJ doing the same thing. UBC is not going to give them a 2v1 advantage.
Exactly. Don't give them the 2v1 advantage, because look at the CS difference already. Pickaxe to boots. That's the back right there for both AD carries. If Heat Waves meets Tails again in that bottom lane, Tails has almost no pressure. And you can see Mini Bestia, he's already, after the lane swap, trying to get deeper wards, trying to get some vision in this jungle so that he can start making these early game moves. And the lane swap back is actually going to be called, like you said.
Once again, so UBC definitely reading RMU like a book this time, but Remy is caught up between Mini Bestia and Oberon. There's the knockup. They exhaust the jungler immediately, and the command protect comes in. Whole lot of shields for this UBC comp, and Remy is going to make it out unscathed.
That's the exhaust down for the bottom lane, though. So there's a summoner spell advantage for RMU, but big item advantage for UBC in that bottom lane.
Oh, yes. That pickaxe, you cannot underestimate the ability to trade. Not to mention, the mobility that Tails has is really not going to give much of an advantage over heat waves, just because that Lucian dash, it's so easy to get in there and trade effectively. The shield as well should keep him safe, and it's just such a rough lane. He's going to be able to land a zap, but the choppers won't connect, and the Tormented Soil, they can just stand right on behind it. So heat waves and Remy are not worried about this at all.
UBC doesn't have very deep wards at the moment, so they don't know the jungler pathing, but RMU has all the information they need. They see the Gragas, they have the Scuttle Crab down, they know where Proof is, they know that they should be playing a little further back, and now you can see the roam to top lane here from Leo. Leo, actually, there's no ward coverage here for DJJ, and this Lulu is going to come all the way to the top lane, knowing that he wasn't spotted by anything.
Oh yeah, so they are pretty close to DJJ's tower. Zig doesn't get the best of that trade, and actually they back off just before Leo arrives, so that's going to be DJJ staying safe on that Gnar right now. Meanwhile, back into the bottom lane. Tails is still trying to stay relevant on this farm, but you can see the difference, and he just hits level 5 just a little bit before Heatwave, so he's definitely keeping up and up on the experience, but the CS difference really starting to shine through.
So because Leo roamed top, they now get ward coverage on the bottom side of the map, and they get to roam their mid laner down here because he has to stay, Leo has to stay and clear that mid lane wave that he missed.
We've got 4 members here starting off this Dragon too, and they're really using Bobchin just to kind of cover. He throws the shield down under Proof. There's really no chance here for RMU to try and contest this early Dragon. UBC's got this one in their pockets, got it in the bank, and there's no wards around. So RMU, they have to know what's happening, but they won't get the exact timer.
This is better map play from UBC than we saw in their previous set. Previously, it was we have to crush lane. They're doing that a little bit here with their CS in the bottom lane. There's a wave to catch for heat waves, but they usually rely solely on that. Now they're actually playing strategically.
Yeah, on the other hand though, RMU, while they are not doing the greatest in the lane phase right now, they do have a comp that, while both of these scale pretty well into the later game, if I'm going to 50 minutes, I'd rather have a Jinx than a Lucian.
Oh yeah. And that's what you saw UBC do yesterday. They got taken very far into the game timer by Texas A&M. And so looks like RMU is trying to exploit what they saw yesterday, but it looks like a little bit of a different UBC this game. They have the wave cleared, they have a lot of disengage, so they can actually just get the Jinx out of the fight with a Gragas barrel, with a Janna disengage, and make sure she doesn't get any resets.
Yeah, that's pretty much the goal, to try and keep the Jinx not relevant for as long as possible. On the other hand, it's going to be really difficult to break through that front line. You've got the Rek'Sai, you've got the artificial shielding from the Lulu ultimate, and of course Signature is just going to be causing so much havoc the longer the game goes on. On the other hand, UBC have a good wombo combo themselves, and they have amazing wave clear, something they were lacking yesterday. I think that this is definitely looking good for them right now. They have a small lead, they have that Dragon, but can they keep this pressure up?
It's very, very minor pressure, very minor gold lead here. And we haven't even seen first blood yet between a team that's considered extremely bloodthirsty.
We had a late one yesterday. We had a 19.5-minute first blood game yesterday, so we could see it drag on and on.
And UBC, they used to pride themselves on being a bloodthirsty team. But verbatim, they said, we're trying to be smarter about the game. They're trying to play the game in a strategic way. And right now, it's actually working a bit. And Tails is so low!
Ooh, Choppers came down. I think that may have saved his life.
Yeah, that definitely saved his life. They got his flash. They didn't get his heal, though. Heatwaves had his flash for follow-up. Remy, once again, had his own exhaust up. Very minimal summoner spells blown there. And Tails is actually going to stay in this lane because he needs to catch this CS because Lucian is already 25 ahead of him. And that's a big wave.
Not only that, but Heatwaves has gone ahead. He picks up the Avarice Blade. He's going to start getting a little bit extra gold here and there. He knows he can afford to do this right now just because he's had the lead right now. So massive wave's going to push in. It's going to be on Tails to try and push this back, but they're going to need some help from over it if they decide to push in further. Remy, sensed out by the Tremors.
Oh, he's going to bait him with the pink ward. Heatwaves is here too.
They may go for this, but Tails, it's still very dangerous. There's the knock-up on the Howling Gale. He flashes forward, still gets one. The Monsoon comes out.
Black Shield just a little bit too late. That was extremely impressive. Remy accidentally hit Oberon. He was queuing for Morgana, and he accidentally hit Oberon, and it was the best Howling Gale that he's thrown all game.
That's, well, there's plenty more to come. Let's see. It's going to hit Mini Bestia this time. There's the clearing of the pink ward, but so far the health bars on UBC's bottom lane, they haven't moved too far down. But on RMU's side, they've got to back away once again.
A lot of trading throughout all of these lanes. Everybody is looking for that advantage. Right now it's CS in the bottom lane and some pressure in the top lane. But Oberon, he's trying to track Proof. You saw him over on the right side of the jungle, place down wards with his Sight Stone and able to put up some tunnels as well to try and track Proof's route. But this gold lead, it's up to 1,200 now, just off of lane difference.
And they're getting free push on the tower right now, too. Yeah, UBC definitely looking like the stronger mechanical players in this lane phase. We'll see how this one keeps up. Oberon now is able to throw a ward down in the jungle, get a little bit more vision of Proof's movements, but that's not really the problem right now. It really is UBC just starting to spiral out of control in lanes. Even in the top lane, it's a slight lead. It's not huge, but you've really got to watch out for this mid-game Lucian once it comes to that, because he can really start shoving down objectives quickly.
Yeah, but the fact that Oberon is keeping tabs on top of Proof is really good, because Proof will take over games. We saw him with 100% kill participation yesterday for a very long time. His favorite champions are the early game aggressive champions, even though they aren't exactly tank meta at the moment and fit that role. Rek'Sai, he likes the Gragas. It's not up there, but it's still something he goes to. And then Nidalee, his all-time favorite at the moment. And he's a big Lee Sin player. It was his favorite champion for a very long time.
Yep. Well, in the Cinderhulk meta, he's gone ahead, shifted things up a little bit. Let's go take a look up to the top side for just a second as Zig was getting pushed in by DJJ. Mid continues to be a farm fest, but that one's very, very even. You've got, of course, the Holy Grail, Unholy Grails completed on both sides, but speaking of Holy Grails, RMU is looking for one. The longer this game goes, their bottom lane still falling further and further behind. 20 CS difference between the two. And you see, Tails, he's just had to upgrade his boots just to stay mobile enough to move around and be able to kite out the Lucian if possible.
It's something we're seeing AD carries do more and more, where they'll get a damage item, then they'll get an attack speed item on top of it. The Berserker's Greaves specifically. So we'll see BF Sword, Berserker's Greaves, Pickaxe, Berserker's Greaves sometimes, just because of the way that the damage gets distributed. You don't want to go just full damage all the time. And if he's able to get auto attacks in, it helps you CS a little better too.
That's true. And with 26 seconds left on this next dragon RMU, they're trying to establish their vision control. Tails is moving up through the river. He didn't check into the pink ward in the brush, but you can see between Leo and Oberon, they're trying to push UBC back, but are they going to be able to do it?
They're trying to contest this blue. They're trying to make sure that the blue doesn't go over to the person they wanted to go over to, Bobchin in the mid lane, right before the dragon comes up. Because if that Orianna gets his hands on that blue, it's a lot more siege and poke potential, as well as zoning and constant team fight. We see Orianna run out of mana all the time in the middle of a fight. But if she's able to get this, it's going to be big.
Definitely is. Since the dragon is now live, UBC 4 members here. Teleports are live for both of the top laners.
Oh, it went over to Lulu.
Wow, Leo's able to pick that one up. So RMU, immediately they turn for the dragon. Still a dangerous time to do this. There's a TP being spent. DJJ's coming in. They have got to get the hell out of here. Leo's going to get the black shield on him, but Mini Bestia now is the target flashing away. Proof's there. The flame choppers, they're not going to run on. Now he gets knocked onto it as another teleport's coming in. Zig's going to look to start this one off. Oberon moves back. Proof, he should go down. He does. That's first blood. Leo picks it up. Remy is now going to go down. Oberon picks him up.
Oh!
A massive shockwave though, and Heatwave is going to pick up Zig. Leo now on the wrong side of the fight. Heatwaves, he should get another. No, it's just assist, and Tails goes down. RMU are scattered to the winds, and it is going to be all of UBC for a 3-for-4. Pick up the win there.
That looked like it was going in favor of RMU until that shockwave came out, and Zig went a little too far forward, and then he flashed back into the shockwave, pretty much the frame that it was coming out. That was just back and forth execution between these two teams. Tails didn't even get to blow his flash in that fight.
It's hard to trade like that early on. Let's take a look at how that went down in a little bit slower motion.
RMU is split. Their entire team has to wrap back around. They land this on DJJ. Proof goes in. His barrel, he wants to throw it right now, but he turns around and then he throws it out. He pops Mini Bestia away, and Proof is now stuck. Boom, Rocket comes out, Proof takes a huge amount of damage. He gets the heal, but then Zig goes too far forward, starts getting attacked by DJJ, flashes right into the shockwave.
And then Leo flashes around the side too, realizes, wait, I've not gotten nearly enough backup, goes down, all of a sudden, it's a 3v2, the Meganar comes up, absolutely crazy, and here we are back into this one. So all of it said and done, UBC get a huge fight there. Now the Dragon's still live, worth noting, nobody was able to take it after that. It's a pretty bloody start to this game here.
That was
see what they can do.
That was one of the best organized team fights that we've seen from UBC because DJJ jumped in and I don't have time to explain it because Remy's caught.
He is going to flash away though, and there's a couple of chompers, but they're not jumped on. RMU, they cannot catch a break right here. DJJ looking to try and make some happen. The rocket goes wide as Remy is able to dodge it out. They're looking for DJJ, but his Narbar's filling up. Bobchin, Shockwave, lands on Mini Bestia. They are going to look for him and polish him off. Heatwaves is the one who gets the credit for that one. The big Nar comes out. Zig is going to be sacrificed, and UBC are starting to roll forward. RMU in full retreat. Over on the Nar, not going to go where they want it, but Tails takes a massive Q anyways. And now UBC should be able to take Dragon number 2 for themselves. No contest available for these Eagles.
Really extended flash shockwave.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Nope. Ooh, that's a close call.
Going for the steal.
Tries.
Nice and cheeky.
But he has to flash out at the end of the day.
So a big part of these fights is the fact that Heatwave's item spike over Tails is big. BF sword and pickaxe with the Avarice blade on the side for some crit, so he's getting those early critical strike chances in there against a pickaxe with Zerker Greaves. So the big disparity is that Heatwaves is just pumping out so much damage in comparison.
Well, this is the spike that they were talking about earlier on in the game. It's just he is able to do so much. He goes back, completes his Infinity Edge right now. It's going to get even scary. He's still been sitting on that Avarice blade, just pumping out gold. He gets boots now to top it off. And this is going to be really, really rough for Army to try and overcome. Yes, he's only 2-3-1. You don't really say, oh, that's a Fed Lucian, but he is still able to do so much for his team. Not to mention Bobchin's Shockwaves. Yes, he only landed on Mini Bestia there, but that started the snowball forward for his team. And 3-0-3, 100% kill participation, 17 minutes in.
Yep, Bobchin's doing a great job in these team fights because nothing has happened until these team fights
really start.
He had item spikes too.
Well, and it's RMU that started that one off.
Oh, yeah.
It was all trying to pick off Remy.
It looked like a good fight for them. Now they're going to start grouping up. They're going to start using Tails to knock down turrets now that he has his BF sword and pickaxe. IE is completed for Heatwaves, so they want to fight as soon as possible. But the way they start these fights is getting Gragas in there, getting their top laner in.
Yeah, I feel like when they do try to take sustained fights, they have to be very mindful of DJJ's timing on his Narbar, because the longer these have gone on, inevitably he's going to stack that up, and once it comes out, we've pretty much seen the fights end right then and there.
That's true. He's showing up without a rage bar too sometimes, and just getting the auto attacks off.
Well, as long as they don't start to turn the fight in RMU's favor the first 15-20 seconds, it just goes in their favor automatically because of that. You know, it's so hard to fight around a properly utilized Gnar, and this is why he's become, once again, so popular.
I think he's going Frozen Mallet here as well. So he's going to look for the 1v1 split push and then trying to TP in. Doesn't matter if he's Mini Gnar or not. That's the beauty of the Frozen Mallet on the Gnar, is that it really adds a lot of power to your Mini Gnar form. When in team fights, you're like, oh, I'm useless because I'm Mini Gnar. I want to have Mega Gnar. This actually adds power to it.
Oh, yes, indeed. So from here, RMU, they are on the back foot, down a couple thousand gold, down a pair of dragons. We'll see what they can do to get back into this game. Start by clearing out some vision. That's always a good way to do it, but they've got to be able to defend towers too. It is 1-0 right now, but with Heatwaves in the top side looking to add to that score. He needs some minions, though, to back him up.
Yeah, he gave up his CS advantage to Tails. Tails was able to compensate that, but Heatwaves was in these fights, and Tails was still farming a little bit off on the side with his AoE. And they're also pushing more waves into him. They've sacrificed Signature's farm for Tails, getting him back into the game.
You can see where the real field of play is here for both these teams right now. A lot of wards all throughout the top side RMU jungle, because that is where UBC is focusing right now. They are trying to push the waves in on that. You see the Colin coming out, trying to force Zig back, but there's still a mini wave evaporating there. It's not going to be enough to push it in. But if UBC decide to cluster up down there, they will, or up there rather, they will have a lot of vision to see where RMU is coming up. For now, they're happy to just cow them around the lanes.
Signature needs a little bit of help in this top lane. We're going to see if Oberon can come up to help him, because he's pinged it, and he's getting harassed.
Oh, he's going to go in. Twisted advance, but he's already very low. Knocked back by the Monsoon. Oberon. Zig is extremely low in this one. He has to back out. No, Oberon is in a 1v2 situation. They did clear the wave, but still, close calls for RMU's laners.
So the question here is if Zig is going to TP back in this lane. If he TPs back in, it gives DJJ a distinct TP advantage. And Proof is going to try to make that a reality because they either give up this turret or they give up the TP. And they're going to give up the turret.
Yeah, they're going to have to here since Proof has moved in. There's no contest available. Now they're still worrying as well about DJJ pushing in the wave on the bottom side. You can see Tails already backing. So another turret taken out, the first one on the top side. So now the only outer remaining for RMU is that one in the middle. Not under threat just yet, but they are still falling further and further behind. The gold lead, about 4,000 for RMU.
And we always talk about RMU's shot caller as their support mini Bestia, and this team turns into a completely different monster when he gets out of the laning phase. The laning phase is pretty much over at this point. Everybody's roaming around, and we haven't seen the moves from him this game that we've usually seen, because he's having to babysit Tails as he catches up and trying to accelerate this Jinx into the mid-late game appropriately.
Now this Jinx still needs an Infinity Edge to start being able to trade effectively. Meanwhile, Heatwaves has just blazed past that. He has got his static shiv completed. The wave clear is going to be unreal for this Lucian right now.
It's 2 items to the parts of 1 right now, is the difference between the AD carries. It's huge.
This is with Tails with the CS lead right now.
Yeah, because even if you just pulled up their crit chance right now, now he finally has that IE completed. Because before that, he had nothing. And then Heatwaves has a crit item on top of the fact that he has a crit attack speed item.
Definitely going to be a little bit more difficult for Tails to trade effectively. It's a good thing they are at a laning phase. Next Dragon is less than a minute away. However, the last time they were clustered up here, Mini Bestia had some trouble, and he has to flash once again. He's going to be blown for this next one.
That lowers a lot of his playmaking potential with the flash ultimate here. DJJ pushing top on Gnar. His Frozen Mallet's completed. He forewent getting the completion of his Spectre's Cowl into whatever he was going to buy. And he's like, no, I want this Frozen Mallet. I want to be able to bully whoever I'm up against in this lane, whether it's Lulu, whether it's Maokai, and then show up and have effectiveness. So the rush of that item is going to be a big spike for UBC right now in this game.
Yeah, and we talked about CS leads too. It is definitely worth noting the difference between Signature and DJJ right now. It's been a fairly large difference for that since he's had to defend and kind of back away, not taking too much poke and losing out on a lot of that farm. Yes, he's got the Frozen Heart completed, but there we go. UBC still taking the initiative. They've got 4 members on this Dragon, and there is no movement from RMU. It would be very difficult for them to contest it. They've got to give this one up. And yeah, they have to trade. The rocket comes in, but it's still secured by UBC. Let's see if they can push this. There is a teleport coming in. Tower goes down. Can they get out safely? DJJ spends that teleport. He goes Mega Gnar.
Proof can't start it. That's a wasted TP, and Zig just walked there. He didn't use his TP. He kept a cool calm head, and that's the thing with this composition is you don't have a Sivir, right? You don't have something that's going to get you into those fights. You have Disengage and a little bit of Engage with Gragas, but then your Disengage of Janna is not going to help you start these either.
Right, so yes, there is a distinct teleport advantage now for Signature, but what is it going to yield RMU? They are down 3 Dragons. The next one is still about 6 minutes away. After that was taken by UBC, they're down in gold still. It's not grown by too much since the last time we talked about it, but University of British Columbia are really just maintaining this lead of theirs, and they're not giving up anything in exchange. 1 tower, small peanuts.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the engage. What I'd really like to see from Proof to cover the weakness of UBC is a Righteous Glory. I'd like to see a Righteous Glory in his inventory to help them start these fights. Because right now, it's relying on him for a flash body slam into somebody who's in that range. Not that favorable.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense in this situation. We'll see if it does get completed that way. For the side of RMU here, they're trying to cover all their bases, but I feel like it's really hard to push here with the immense amount of wave clear that Lucian has, that Heatwaves has on the top. Remy's kind of roaming around and making sure no one's going to blindside him here. But RMU mostly focusing on the bottom side. Yes, DJJ does not have a teleport, but he's got a tower to fall back to. And so many members of RMU converging on him, they're not going to be able to do anything here. Tails is left to solo push back the top side against Heatwaves. And I think we all know how that's going to go.
Yep. Especially since the fact that Remy is also nearby, warding up, making sure he sees whether he's going to get flanked or not, and covering Heatwaves. Heatwaves still has that item spike over Tails at the moment. Tails went for a little more lifesteal in his build, just so that he's able to sustain in these lanes, stay in it, make sure he can't get poked out as easily. We see a lot of health coming out for Proof. He's just looking to get tanky. It looks like a Warmogs might be coming out for him here.
Why not? Scale it, scale it, scale it some more. Just keep adding on those layers and make it difficult for RMU to wear through that front line as much as possible. So it's kind of been a little bit of a back and forth here. You know, one or two people pushing a lane and then just a response from RMU, but they've been on the back foot constantly. You know, you've got to think they've only been really down so many times in their games through the entirety of the NACC tournament. How well are they going to be able to adapt to this is a real question.
That's true. UBC has been down before. We saw it yesterday where they were able to come back from a deficit. Now they have a lead and they're trying to snowball it there. And what UBC's basically overall objective right now is basically keep the game in a prolonged laning phase, because that's where they're strong. Keep the lane phase stalled out. This is basically, I said it, laning phase is pretty much over, but they're keeping it a laning phase here on UBC's side. They're saying, you know what, we're just going to keep doing laning phase until Dragon comes up, because they're on track for a 34-35 minute Dragon 5.
Yeah, and if you get that, I mean, you just get so strong, doubling all the other buffs, and coming up to that point, it's going to be so difficult for RMU to push them back. They're already having a rough time, so they have to change things up. I mean, what does RMU need to do to shake the game out of this point that it's gotten to the UBC just very happily controls?
Yeah, they need to catch. They need to start fights that can't be disengaged, or get to Remy and have a black shield on the person who's trying to continue the fight. You can see Signature has his Righteous Glory completed, so they have a little bit better avenue to try and execute that strategy. But they're slowly getting choked out of this game. That gold lead is getting a little bit bigger.
And those tanks are getting bigger too. I mean, you see the Warmogs completed on Proof right now. DJJ, he's already had the Frozen Mallet completed, but he's working his way towards a Randuin's Omen. It's just going to get that much harder, especially for Tails to wear through. And what damage do they really have aside from that? Leo is not going to be a hyper carry. Yes, he built a Luden's Echo, but that's really, I feel, just for the wave clear here. Zig's going to be a front line. Oberon's going to be a front line, but he's gone, of course, the very tanky route that we're seeing Rek'Sai's do more and more these days. And what's Mini Bestia going to be able to do? He's really hardly got any damage, opting for another Aegis.
Yeah, it's pretty much protect Tails, keep him as safe as possible during the fights. Lulu building Luden's Echo is actually a substantial damage source. It's a little underrated in my opinion. I feel it's very powerful, and it can also wave clear effectively, and that's what they're trying to do, is just keep their turrets alive right now. If he can land a Glitter Lance, we'll see how much damage it does to heat waves.
Yeah, that's what I really want to see here. But he's going to dodge, so we won't really see it do anything. UBC getting a little hypey as they push forward, taking 1 or 2 tower shots. Not too worried about it, though. And you can see frantic number of pings from RMU as they try to figure out exactly where UBC have gone. DJJ still pushing up on the top side, just about has his teleport back up. And of course the Dragon will be up in just another minute. This tower being fired down in the mid right now. There's no response, or Tails is trying, but it just can't do it. They are locking up Proof and Remy for a second, but there really wasn't any follow-up available there. So UBC, they get out scot-free once again.
RMU aren't forcing anything. They're having to take care of their side waves because of all the wave clear and wave push, and the fact that DJJ is very large. He's 50 CS up at the moment. He's able to pretty much duel anybody on the team with that Frozen Mallet, Randuin's, and the MR from the Spectre's Cowl.
Well, just about everybody on UBC has a CS lead over their counterpart here, and it's just troubling for RMU because they need, as you said, to make plays, to set up catches, but who can they really get? UBC, they're roaming together quite effectively, with the exception of DJJ, who's been safe enough on his own. He's got the teleport up and available anyways, should they need it, so this is at best a 5 versus 5.
And this is, once again, UBC being like, all right, laning phase is over for a couple minutes. Let's just go to Dragon. Let's have a team fight. Basically, dance around it. The opening ceremony of the lane phase is over for
exactly. And there's nothing RMU can really take in exchange. You know, the easiest tower is gone in the middle right now. They could try to maybe force a top or a bottom and give that up, but it's so dangerous. Narbar is fully stacked right now. DJJ looking to start the fight. He hops forward, tries to get the smash up. He landed on Zig, who's going to throw down his ultimate, but they're chasing him down. How thick is the bark on the tree? Not enough, as he has to flash away. This time he will get away. And let's see if RMU opts to try and go back in. Mini Bestia was looking for a flank around the side, still looking for it as DJJ transforms back into the Mini Gnar. Dragon has been started by the University of British Columbia. RMU scrambling to try and contest this one, but there is a lot of damage. They've got the Shrine. They've got the speed up.
They're waiting on DJJ to once again get his Rage Bar near a full place so that he can actually transform.
On the other hand, there is a large minion wave pushing in the top, so RMU, they do have that advantage to be able to push that in, get a little bit more damage out on that passively, but they can't afford to give up this dragon. It gets so much closer to number 5, so they still hang around, but DJJ stacking that bar. He's low. Can they pick him off, though? That's the question. He's about to go big, but this dragon already at half health. They're going to have to attempt to steal if they want to take the fight. It's going to be picked up by Proof, and DJJ Meganar goes in forward. He's going to get taken down. No, and the shockwave takes in Zig. Heat Waves picks up Oberon. Proof will be sacrificed. He goes down, but so does Signature. And now Tails is going forward. He's having to go back. They exhaust him down so low on the side of UBC, but there's no one there to follow up as a double kill comes in from Bobchin, looking for more Heat Waves with the command protect, chasing down Leo, and he dodges away from the glitter lance. Leo under tower. He has so low of a health bar, but he makes it out with a flash. The only surviving member. RMU just narrowly avoids the wipe, and they give up another dragon, Cyrene.
That's the 4th dragon, and like I said, they're on path to a 36-minute dragon.
And maybe a 30-minute Baron.
Well, they're looking at the Baron. DJJ would have to TP in for this. It'd be very risky.
No,
I don't think they're not going to do it. Okay. They're just getting control of it.
They're getting ahead of ourselves,
they're making sure there's no counter.
But they do get the Scuttle Shrine. They're able to take everything, and you know, they really are just starving RMU of resources. Yes, they can get lane farm, but they will always get more. Take a look at this again, though.
Yeah, this is DJJ really low, but as soon as he hits that Rage Bar, which he was definitely waiting for, he gets the bounce off Oberon. 2-man forces the flash from Tails, also gets the stun onto Tails. The ball hasn't come in yet, though. Bobchin throws it out, only gets Signature in it, so it wasn't an ideal ultimate either, but then Proof goes down. DJJ was able to leap out of the fight and get out, but Tails was too far forward, gets exhausted, and they just cluster on top of them. And the missed Glitter Lance here onto DJJ, followed by the missed Glitter Lance onto Heat Waves. Could have been some kills come through.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to talk about in that fight in particular. I really want to commend UBC's zone control. They kind of waited till the Narbar was... They timed it almost perfectly with how low the dragon went, because come and get it, come and get it. Oh, surprise, there's a Gnar in your face. Not only that, Tails very early used his rocket, whereas right before he died, if he had launched that right then, he may have picked up a double, maybe even a triple kill right in the faces of all those very low health bar UBC members, but instead the exhaust came down, they were able to pick him off. The fight was pretty much over before then, but we'll see what happens here. DJJ is caught up, they need to get these ones. The Wild Growth to stop the hop, he's nowhere near Meganar, but he's still sustainful enough. Zig and Leo just gonna be able to take him down. Leo definitely could have used that kill, or can use that kill, but now can they defend the mid turret? That's the question. Looks like that, yes, for now.
Yeah, they're going to go defend the mid turret. They don't even get anything off of that death from DJJ on UBC side. They might get some turret damage in top lane, but they have to ward up the crossroads to get to that top lane. Make sure that he's safe.
30-second power play. Let's see if RMU can force some map control out of that one. Oberon takes a huge chunk of damage, and the shockwave doesn't connect, but he still has to back away from that one, a little bit ahead of his team. They really need to start pushing for objectives, pinging on the top side, but the minion wave's really just not there.
Yeah, the wave control has been in UBC's favor all game long. They keep shoving side waves. They keep 1-3-1 split pushing, 1-2-1 split pushing with Proof roaming between it. Basically a lane phase.
I mean, this is totally different UBC than what we saw yesterday. I mean, there's a very much more team fight, roll their way to victory style than what they're showing here against RMU. This is very, very smart rotation.
It's objective focused.
Yeah.
They're playing a very objective focused game, and they're respecting RMU, I think is the big thing here, is they're respecting RMU's potential as a team fight team, that they're not getting too hypey. They're not diving turrets.
Well, they're recognizing the real threat, too. They know that Tails and to a lesser degree Leo are the only real damage dealers on this squad, so they are able to get into the back line and at least pick one of them off, and they know from there, boom, we win the fight.
Yeah, and the fact that they had bad lane matchups in the bottom lane and top lane gave UBC something to leverage, because they love leveraging those strong lanes.
Win lane, win game. There's a reason it's a tried and true strategy.
Well, Tails has been doing a good job of CSing, but they've sacrificed top lane farm for it from Signature. He's got some items to be tanky. He doesn't have any MR at the moment, aside from his boots, but he's looking to just try and get armor.
But this is also the thing about, they need to try to get a catch up here.
Again.
DJJ, if they can give this kill over to Tails, that would be some absolutely much needed goal, but in comes Proof. He knocks, there's a kill. Oberon's gonna pick it up though. Proof for just a second, it looked like that was going to be a big barrel, but it was a misfire. Now he's being chased down by the rest of this team. He's got no ultimate. He's going to get picked off. That's going to be the shield, and Zig this time takes it down. Still no kills for Tails. Heatwaves, though, is going to return fire on a Mini Bestia. And that, all said and done, a 2-for-1. Dragon still a minute and a half away. RMU, are they going to go for the Baron here? They're actually being pinged out by UBC. They got a man advantage. There's no smite available. They may be able to force the issue, but this is dangerous.
This is how they get back in the game. If they get this Baron, they'll be close in gold. There isn't a whole lot of steal potential, and they're all full HP.
Yeah, but Bobchin, he has the Shockwave. He's going to pull the ball back in. They look for the catch. The Wild Growth comes out. Shockwave pulls in Tails and Leo, but they have just enough damage to keep it going. Remy, that shield is not going to go anywhere, and Tails is getting excited, looking to chase down Heatwaves. They throw down the blue trinket. There's going to be the command protect onto him from Bobchin. And the Dragon still 45 seconds. They can go back to this, but still even more dangerous now. The Proof is back up.
Yeah, the Baron's still on the table. They got some damage down. Are they going to go straight back to it?
Looks like it. Clearing away that ward. Heatwaves. Bobchin, he hasn't backed. He is very low, does not have Shockwave, but Proof can still go in for the steal. This is still an extremely tense moment for them as Baron is at half its health bar. Heatwaves, DJJ chasing forward. The Scuttle, they're fighting over that one. It looks like it's going to go down as DJJ eats one of the Flame Chompers. They've stopped the Baron attempt. So all the kills that RMU were able to secure there did not go anywhere, as the Rocket doesn't either. Off to the side and off the map.
7 seconds on this Dragon. It's Dragon 5. They backed. They just backed right now.
They gave up their map control.
RMU, they're not going to make it here in time. This is going to go down so quickly. It's going to be Dragon 5
and there's no chance for cross-map Rocket. I mean, it's really, really quick. Dragon 5 for UBC, despite the fact that they've given up a couple of kills. That is 3 minutes of utter dominance that the University of British Columbia can exert now. And that's going to be tough for RMU to come back from.
Now they're not going to lane phase. They're not going to sit around and be like, oh, we're split pushing. They're going to clear their side waves, and then they're going to group up and try to fight.
There is no need for them to keep drawing this one out. Yes, they still only have a 5,000 gold advantage, but 5 Dragons to 0 is not something that you can underestimate. RMU will certainly be a tad more cautious, we would hope, going forward into this one. And they're going to have to try to wait this one out. Fortunately, they do have a banner command for Mini Bestia, so that's one thing that they're going to try to make do with and push some of these waves back. And of course, if they can stop a Baron, that would be great too, but UBC might force the issue.
UBC are going to try to force this Baron. They have the 5 Dragon buff on them, so if they get fought, it's a very disadvantageous position to be in from RMU. RMU tried to shove bottom wave. They have heat waves in the top from UBC clearing that. And DJJ, he has his TP up. He's in that bottom lane, clearing it, making sure it's okay. And this is the answer here is RMU, they want to shove waves and try to split the team so they can't get 5-man fought by this 5'd-up Dragon squad.
And you can see that RMU, you know, they're getting a little cold feet here. They're backing away, only seeing 1 or 2 members of UBC and just not wanting to take any risks here as Proof dashes forward. Mini Bestia immediately throwing out the Black Shield onto himself. Still very controlling of the map here. UBC, they've got a Meganar in the bottom. DJJ running that one on its course. Still has the teleport available if he wants to use it to start a fight. You see Zig now moving his way down to the bottom just to try to contest this one, but
that's it. That's all the Baron vision.
It's gone. RMU is completely in the dark here.
Yep, they started the Baron already.
4 members strong. They start pushing it down, half its health already. Can they get in here to contest? The teleport's coming in. A double teleport's coming in. Baron's already gone. Oberon, he has to get the hell out of dodge as he moves across the wall, or under it, I should say. They will be able to disengage for now, but UBC have managed to pick up the Baron and maybe some kills. Mini Bestia, where did he go as Bobchin picks him up? Flashes flying left and right. DJJ Meganar in the front, unable to get the ultimate off, but he dashes forward. There goes Tails. He waves. What the damage he's able to put out, and the turret is going to fall. RMU, they are in a whole heaping helping of trouble here.
They're going to get so much off of this. They might be able to end the game. They're going to get
turret damage.
Baron, these are getting shredded immediately.
Everything's starting to fall down. Who needs a landing phase anymore? This is turning up the heat. UBC shredding through everything down the middle. RMU, last-ditch effort to try and stop this one. Focusing on a Bobchin. They get the shutdown, but Zig, he's starting to melt low too. The last Nexus turret falls. UBC turn their attention to the last building standing. 38 minutes and a half in, and they're up 1-0.
UBC playing a completely different game than they did yesterday. Wave cleared, objective control, and their team fights were on point. The shot calling today is really crisp.
Absolutely.
So DJJ being in that calm, confident position, it showed there.
Oh, yes, it did. And they have earned themselves 1 game up right now. for the recognition of their school. Only 2 away to take that victory. But this was, like you said, a completely different team than we saw yesterday. I don't know if they swapped brains with RMU, but their rotations were just absolutely on point.
Yeah, and the fact that they were able to get that Oriana last pick, see what came out, and then set up team fights around that, that basically solidified what the comp was going to do. Because it had a lot of disengage, and it's like, all right, how do we really start these fights and zone people off of objectives? And the Oriana did that for them.
Yeah, even if they weren't able to always land, massive 2, 3, 4-man shockwaves, just having one, just catching one was a good start to the fight. And they always played around the Nard timing very, very well from DJJ, and they baited out fights at the Dragon. They baited out the Baron very effectively. They already took it was the dangling a little lure in front of the face of RMU all the time, and as soon as they got close enough to grab it, boom, it was secured away. Proof of Payment was absolutely fantastic on his smites this game, and then they were able to turn the fight, get 1, get 2, roll it forward, and there was no stopping them from there.
There were 2 things that stood out for me from RMU. Oberon was keeping track of Proof during the early game, which is really good, but then he's not affecting lanes. Then we saw Mini Bestia. He was trying his best to actually get picks to affect the side lanes, to affect anything in the game, because they play around him. They play around their shot caller support and try to free him up. But it wasn't happening because Tails had so much pressure on him from the lane matchup. That was pretty much just called by UBC. They're like, we know this is a lane swap, even though Tails is just sitting top, hasn't been spotted out. Really good instincts there from UBC.
Yeah, a really, really impressive play from them. I'm excited to see what they come up with in the next couple of games, and we'll have to see what RMU does to adapt. I mean, they've got their whole staff out here. They'll be definitely going over that game and seeing exactly what happened, how they can prevent it. But that's enough for us breaking it down. We're going to send it over to the analysts, who will give you even more information on how that match went down.
Thank you, gentlemen. Solid victory there for University of British Columbia, starting the series off 1-0. That's got to feel good for sure. But let's start breaking it down with, we pegged them as this team that was going to go assassin heavy in the mid lane, and then they completely contradict us in the first game, make us look like fools there. But I have to agree with what the casters were saying, in that I love to see this adaptation so early on in the series. They're coming out, they're making a statement of, we are a versatile team. You cannot underestimate our champion pools and our abilities to play a different style if need be.
Yeah, and really the big thing for me was Bob Chin on Oriana. When they locked us in, I was not sure how they were going to do. Usually they're very reliant on him in the early game to kind of get them ahead. They snowball him. He provides a lot of damage in the mid-game team fights, but his Oriana was fantastic. His play was patient, and just a totally different side of this player that I have never seen before.
Yeah, he did exactly what he needed to on Oriana, fulfilled the role within the team comp. It was very clear that UBC had a composition that you get slightly ahead, and you can just take these fights, and it was kind of exacerbated by the fact that bot lane got way ahead, and that's something coming into this matchup specifically that I wasn't too sure about for UBC. Their bot lane in previous games has not looked bad, not even less than good, but just the weaker part of their team, and they put a lot of focus there. And the reason they did that was RMU ran a comp that only had 1 real damage threat, and that's the Jinx. They put so much on the shoulders of Tails that if you shut Tails out of this game, it's very hard for RMU to win.
Yeah, we saw very early on Tails relegated to buying boots along with his Doran's Blade to the pickaxe and Doran's Blade evolution. From that point onward, we only saw the item differential increase, and as you mentioned, that's a huge factor in them falling behind and being unable to take team fights early in the game, not having any damage on their singular damage threat. That being said, they recognized that weakness. They recognized their lack of damage in the early game, and I do believe that RMU played that early to mid game fairly well in avoiding dragon fights. After losing that first one in the bottom river, they kind of were like, okay, you know what? We'll stall this out. We have to wave clear with the Rockets.
Yeah, they had a whole bunch of wave clear, but we're actually going to jump into that first dragon fight that, or this is actually later on into the game that we were talking about. This is the one that we thought RMU, they had good positioning. They chunked Gnar down to begin this. Yes, Gnar's about to go Mega Gnar, but if he's this low, it's very difficult for him to find the right position unless you move forward into the engage. Tails has to burn his flash very early on. Even though the shockwave's not the best, it doesn't hit multiple people at this point. Look at the positioning. Tails wants to go forward, the rest of his team wants to kite back, and without a flash, very easy to kind of pick him off and take the fight. Honestly, RMU played the setup to that fight really well. It just, in the middle of the fight, it got a little bit headless.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the amount of damage that was laid down onto Gnar prior, definitely an engagement at that point they wanted to take. We saw Jinx had her completed eye edge, had a Zeal, as well as her level 2 boots, and a pickaxe to complement for a little bit more damage. The only difference between the 280 carries was upgrading that Zeal to the finished Shiv. Everything else was the same across the board. So when you actually look at damage output from those carries, Jinx in a team fight at that point would arguably have more, even without the extra crit attack speed and proc from the Shiv. So I do believe it was the right fight to take. A little bit of miscommunication maybe between the two teams, or between the players on RMU in terms of whether or not they wanted to push through or pull back.
And this just kind of small communication errors throughout the whole game. We saw a lot of fights where they started grouped, and it seemed like they wanted to split up at least a little bit to avoid the Orianna Shockwave, to avoid that Gnar, and instead they split. They go different paths, they wrap around. We saw right before that fight Maokai having to blow his flash because he was caught out. Then they're patient. They wait, the Mega Gnar is down, and this is pretty much their opportunity to move forward. But they wait too long, and the mistake that they make is as they back out, they position themselves right along that wall. Instantly the flash gets blown from Tails, and the Gnar gets the ultimate. And it's not amazing, it's not the best ultimate by any means, but because you get the Jinx flash, the rest of the fight is easy from there, and Tails stepping forward and that slight miscommunication only makes it worse.
All right, now as we move through the rest of the game, again, RMU, it's interesting because I want to praise them for making the right decisions when behind. We talked about at the beginning of the show, we haven't really had the opportunity to see the Eagles in a deficit and how they play from there. I thought they played pretty well. They set up around Baron when they finally had some rotational advantage, numbers advantage from a one fight. That first Baron attempt, fantastic. Baiting in for the fight, flash Maokai, twisted advance onto the Orianna. You know, fantastic engage. They pick up a kill. The second Baron call, though, and forgetting the 5th Dragon timer, I think was crucial in this loss here for them, because one resulted in 5th Dragon picking up, subsequently Baron being picked up. I just noticed this stat while we were watching a game. With a Janus shield on, Lucian had 507 AD on that final push, which is why he two-shot Jinx under the turret.
Instantly annihilated.
And so, you know, it's interesting when you give up that much early pressure, and we saw UBC, this is a team that will take advantage of it. You can't give them that early lead. They quickly have 4 dragons. They're putting 5th dragon pressure on you at 30 minutes into the game, and they have that damage to snowball through you.
They do, and that's one of the adaptations that RMU made that was kind of puzzling to me. We talked in the pregame about the champions of the top lane Zig plays. He likes to get these champions that try to carry, and that's where a lot of the early game pressure does end up coming from. They roam top a lot. You put him on a Maokai, his performance was solid, but they needed more than that. When you're only running 1 damage comp and your single damage comp runs behind in the laning phase, it's so difficult. I really would like to see Zig back onto something like an Aurelia, something that he can make his impact on the game much earlier.
And well, as much as we talk about the games from yesterday for UBC being the Bob Chin show, I mean, a lot of those games for RMU to a lesser degree were the Zig show. I mean, he was on that Hecarim, he was on that Gnar, and both games his scoreline was pretty much flawless, like patient early game as we described, but in those team fights, he was the key player. He won pretty much every team fight for RMU, not single-handedly, but was a huge factor in all those games.
Yeah, I kind of want to return to the beginning of this discussion where you mentioned the bot lane for UBC being maybe our question mark coming into this matchup for that team. But the fact that they stepped up, won that 2v2, now the question mark shifts over to RMU's bot lane. Yeah. Because they're going, I think Tails uncharacteristically missing a lot of CS early, even without too much pressure, then not getting the level 2 first, not respecting the level 2 of a Janus shield, plus, you know, Lucian's double shots, quickly getting bullied out of lane. And they're going to need to step up if they want to relieve that pressure, especially if they're going to put Tails in the position to carry.
Yeah, and this is where the coaches, the training, the sessions they did with the sports psychologists are going to pay off. This is the moment where it's like, okay, we're behind. We didn't do so great in these areas of that game. This is how we fix them. And that's going to be the difference here, potentially, between these two teams when they're on the back foot. And this is RMU's time with the entire program. Everything that they built this for is to readjust going into game 2. And that's what RMU have to do here. They have to come out with either a slightly different strategy or just execute it better.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of these teams should still have a lot of confidence. Even on RMU side, I don't believe that they should be walking away from that game concerned about the rest of the series. They should still be confident in their ability to play. And ultimately, both of these teams had an idea of how this series would play out based on their performances earlier in the weekend.
So the first game against UConn, we were a little bit jittery, a little nervous, so we played it kind of slow, and we just waited until we had proper vision, and we won and ended the game pretty clean.
In game 1, we started off pretty well. We got first blood, but afterwards we threw a little bit. We initiated some fights that we shouldn't have, but I got a pentakill in a team fight.
He does not. Bobchin picks it up with a double kill, but Chuck Norris is on to Heat Waves. He goes down as well. It's another kill, quadra kill, pentakill for Bobchin.
Getting a pentakill in front of everyone was definitely awesome. I don't get pentakills a lot, and we won the game.
Game 2, we were a little more sloppy. We started fighting earlier than we should have. We fought over silly things. I mean, if anything, now we're prepared because we played on the stage. We're ready to go to the next game, and we already experienced what it's like to be up there. Shouldn't be a problem.
Against RMU, we're going to perform just as well as we do in scrims, 3-0.
I hope UBC's nervous after they saw our games with UConn. That's something that they shouldn't take lightly.
After we took first place in Western Region, we felt like we already won. We knew we were going to perform really well in LA.
The mindset that the best players are the Western players because they beat all the universities in there, I think that's a pretty short-sighted perspective.
Who doesn't want to win first? Recognition, fame, scholarship is a really big deal.
I think the person who deserves to win is the one standing on the stage after that third W. We'll see on stage who deserves to be the NACC champion.
And we heard there RMU very critical of their own play. Happy with their game 1 yesterday. Not as much with game 2, saying they feel they played sloppy, took some team fights where they shouldn't have over objectives that were kind of meaningless. So very critical, and I think they're going to have to hold on to that critical mindset when analyzing game 1 here, going into game 2 to figure out the adjustments they're going to make to play and pick team fights correctly.
And on the opposite side for UBC, they've come in so strong. Already, they might have put a little bit of doubt in RMU's mind. I mean, Bobchin on Oriana, big talking point, not something we expected, and a completely different team comp. And as well, they picked a comp that worked. They have no reason to change anything coming into this game, too.
And that comp was wildly different from yesterday as well. I mean, UBC were running 4 tanks and, you know, an assassin or a scaling in Cassidin. Way different this time. This time they pick a Na, which gets lane dominance. They pick, you know, Gregus, yes, he's a tank. Mid lane, Oriana's going to scale, but it was such a different playstyle. RMU, you would have to feel, would have accounted for that. But now how do you tweak what happened in the previous game to make it work again? And I said it in the post game. I really think Zig is going to be a key part of how they tweak this matchup.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in there on that. You mentioned while we were watching the previous game that RMU's only other loss was with Zig on Maokai.
I was wrong. There was a game where Zig actually suffered horribly in laning phase. One of the only games where he fell behind, but their only loss was when he was on Lulu. So a little bit different. I misquoted on that one.
Still a supportive type champion though, right? Okay, so not Maokai, but still a supportive type champion. That's not something that you're going hard carry on. Has a little bit of lane presence for sure and some bullying potential, but absolutely much more successful on that Hecarim Aurelia. Something that can really dominate the game and can, you know, on top of initiating fights, apply the pressure on that backline. I feel like University of British Columbia was a little too comfortable in team fights. Army didn't have the pressure to get them off kilter at any point.
For sure, and you look at the lane matchup with regards to players. DJJ going up against Zig, those are two of perhaps the top laners in the NACC when you look at it. And to pick a matchup where you basically sacrifice your laning phase, says, I will give away a lot of my personal mechanical skill for the team, and it didn't work. You have to balance that between what the team needs and what your lane needs and make sure that both go hand in hand.
Yep, UBC coming out strong here in the series, starting 1-0. RMU, we'll see if they can run it back, bring it to 1-1 in the series as we throw it over to the casters for game 2.
Absolutely. So I'm really curious to see how they match up in the lane specifically. The bottom lane, I think, is probably where we could see the most potential explosive fighting, just because, you know, Lucian used to be known as that big lane bully. That's obviously changed a little bit, but he's still a very safe choice. Whereas the Jinx, that is a lot more risky, but it's a bold statement by RMU. Tails is saying, yes, I can beat you down, I can scale up, and we can take this game #1. As we get ready, loading up onto the Rift here. Let's see how it goes. We are live into game #1, UBC RMU. As the crowd goes up, we are into the first game of the NACC Finals here in Santa Monica.
For bragging rights, for everything. Best college NA at League is on the line right now.
$30,000 in scholarships each.
Yep, that's true. Just making it this far, you've guaranteed yourself at least $15,000 in scholarships for both teams. Winner basically doubles their money.
Oh yeah, that is definitely not a bad addition to that prize, that sweet, sweet trophy hanging on front of the stage. Got to be in the forefront of their minds. Well, maybe the back, because this game's got to be on the front right now. See DJJ wandering down, tosses the boomerang in Zig's general direction. But we do see the makings of a lane swap with Tails up in the top side. They're trying to fake this one out with Zig being there.
Exactly. So DJJ is trying to keep tabs on Zig, but Jinx Tails is already up in that top lane. So even if they got a deport, they'd have no idea. And it looks like Zig is going to start there. But Zig also hasn't set up for taking the Raptors just yet. He's going to go do that right now. Jinx in the meta at the moment. So he has something that he's very comfortable on. And when they dedicate this many resources to Tails, you expect him to dominate the lane. And when you look over at UBC, you think the 3 former challenger players are their top, their mid, and their jungler. So their AD carry and support are not former Challenger Series players. They didn't play on a team together before. In fact, Remy pairing up with Heatwaves is a more newer thing in comparison to the rest of the team. And it's also the lane that Proof ganks least often. So if you get something that scales into the late game, you pull Proof into that lane for pressure, and that's the advantage they're looking for here.
Oh, yes, indeed. Now for UBC, we see Bobchin go ahead and locks in the Orianna. That does combo up nicely if they can execute it with the Gragas, with the Gnar. But on the other hand, you know, this is a bit built for lane dominance right now, except for in the mid lane, it's going to be a little bit more back and forth poking and farming for quite a while. Everything else, though, it could get very explosive.
Both mid laners are going to be comfortable in this situation, though. Orianna, Lulu, they both want to scale up. They both want to be able to have those item breakpoints where they can clear minion waves instantaneously. They covered their wave clear here, though, something that UBC didn't do yesterday. They now have a wave clear champion in the middle. They fixed that problem for themselves, and as the analyst desk was saying, they had to coming into a series against RMU, because they're going to get exploited and turrets are going to drop if they don't have that. Now, that gives them another set of engage. It actually increases the effectiveness of the Gnar engage from DJJ, so when he calls a shot to go in, it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Ahead and ban out Cassin. Hecarim's taken away. No surprises there. Very contested pick between Zig and DJJ.
Yeah, the Hecarim is probably going to be banned on red side every single game. If it's not banned, I expect the Gnar to be picked up fairly early on just to dissuade the enemy team from taking it.
Yeah, the Nautilus, Sejuani, no-brainers there as well. They're just targeting out who they think are going to be the key pickups for each of those teams. The Urgot is also taken away, but now UBC has a chance to ban the last thing. What do we expect here?
It depends. It could be a Gragas ban last. They could end up banning LeBlanc. There it is. The LeBlanc comes through.
Yeah.
Because both mid laners are LeBlanc players, and they were banned in both sets against both teams. They pick up the Rek'Sai. Gragas is still on the table here.
Quickly.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is something else. And, you know, we saw a little bit of variety in the Yukon set yesterday. So for Oberon, he's going to go back to that Rek'Sai. I would definitely think the Gragas would be the next tier to fall through, but they don't have to pick it now.
Yeah, here's the thing with Proof of Payment, though. When I was looking at his match histories, he's much more confident on Nidalee and Rek'Sai. And Texas A&M was actually first picking the Gragas away from him. But you're going to see it right here where he's like, all right, I have to pick the Gragas now because my favorite champion was taken away. When I asked him about his favorite champions, right now, it's pretty much those two, Rek'Sai and Nidalee. Doesn't get it.
DJJ is going to be go ahead and taking the Gnar as well. Got me
Big lane bully for himself.
Oh, yeah.
So DJJ, now he gets to dictate the pace of the lane. Gnar doesn't have a whole lot of counter matchups. Some people consider Aurelia to be sort of a counter matchup.
It's all timing based. You got to work with the Gnar bar.
Exactly. You have to be able to work around the Gnar bar. They're going to go with the straight up, just sustained matchup here with Maokai. A little more gank pressure there. And with the Rek'Sai, there's definitely kill potential onto DJJ.
Yeah, and here for UBC, you know, it's talked about on the desk before that Bobchin really likes that Zed play. He hasn't shown too much outside of that in LeBlanc. A few different things yesterday, obviously, with the Katarina Cassin pickup. And he flashes it right now. That was a real crowd pleaser. A pentakill and almost another.
Yeah, honestly, you're probably not going to pick Katarina this early on when you have last pick available. You already picked your top lane solo laner. You haven't seen their mid laner, and you have the option of doing that. So that's just a hover for right now.
It's also very difficult against this comp that they're building because, I mean, between the Maokai and the Rek'Sai, you're not going to be able to get those resets quite so easily.
Yeah, you're not going to get the duration, full duration on your ultimate off. I expect them to take their bottom lane here. We're going to see something different from Remy this game, and they're going with some disengage. This has a lot of disengage in it. Your engage is pretty much Gnar and Gragas barrel.
Here we go, though, for RMU. Very quick pickup of their lane. We are going to see a Jugger Jinx.
Let's protect the Jinx composition here.
The Lulu.
Leo going to pick up the Lulu for himself in the mid lane. See what Bobchin picks up against him. But Tails on this Jinx. This takes me back when he was in Challenger, back when he was trying to qualify for the LCS. This guy was a star player, and he would carry his team on things like Vayne, another carry-type champion.
Wow, that is a little interesting.
Sometimes you rub a belly for good luck.
You know, I think that's the strategy here. So UBC trusting in the superstition to start this game off. A number of wards littering around the river.
They called it.
Ooh,
they
boy.
called the lane swap.
They're going to go up for it. Yeah, we got a 2v2 in the top, it looks like, Zyrene.
But you really want this 2v2 as UBC.
Oh, yeah.
Because you want DJJ to have a lane against this Maokai that he can bully around. And this lane between Janna Lucian, that's 2 early game bullies. And against a Morgana, she offers no sustain to Jinx. Every little bit of damage that Tails takes, there is a range disparity there, but he's not able to heal that up. Mini Bestia is not going to help him with that. And Mini Bestia is on a pick-oriented roaming champion.
Actually going to run.
You're going to see right here the lane swap. They're actually going to know this at this point now.
The binding goes wide too, and not going to be able to land on Remy, and his shield's just preventing all the damage. Now Tails,
both of them took a lot of damage.
They're having a rough start to begin with this one. That's not how you want to have that lane swap executed. Heat waves can start to push Tails back down quite a bit.
Immediate trades, immediate rush to the level 2 here to try and compensate for it from RMU. No potions pop. They're just going to try to sustain and clear as fast as possible. But when Lucian walks up to you...
Oh, it's a binding though. They blew through the shield. Yeah, you need to be able to do that. So it's going to be down on Mini Bestia being able to land that and zone them back just so Tails can get the safe farm. Right now it's fairly even across the board. So we've just got a standard lane swap doubled on both sides. Should be pretty safe in the mid and of course in the bottom for a while. But I really want to keep my eye on that top side and see what the junglers do for this one. Right now, they're hanging out on the bottom side though.
Yeah, and both are in a position